right, beautiful people, we are live. Hold on. Okay, yep. We are live on YouTube. We live on Facebook. Guys, forgive me for my tardiness this morning. I could not go to sleep last night. Like, when I said I couldn't go to sleep, it was like after 3 o'clock this morning, I could not go to sleep. You can still see the sleep marks in my face. Good morning, everybody. I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay, shalom. All right, y'all. I don't know. I was up all day yesterday. Couldn't wait to go to sleep. Then I couldn't go to sleep anymore, so I finally fell asleep. And even after putting the Bible on, it was still an hour before I fell asleep because I was all into it. I was like, oh my, this is not helping me. It put people to sleep, but it revived me. But yes, I am so sorry. Y'all, I overslept. Okay, so where is my pen? That's horrible, everybody. My son came and got my book yesterday. That's what happened. Hold on. I need my pen, y'all. I forgot. Jeremiah came and got my Legends of the Jews. Got my stuff. I was like, look, you better put my stuff back. And he put everything back but my pen. Okay, y'all. Okay, so let's get started. Here. It is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. We are reading Deuteronomy 19, 20, and 21. It is February the 23rd, 2021, day 85 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 754. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here with the Shema real quick. All right. Okay. Mom Aliyah, Shayla, Levon, Katrina, and everybody else up here. I ain't said nothing. Okay. All right. The Shema found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah our God, he is one God. And you shall love Yahuwah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God, as he has commanded us. Belinda Brown, good morning. All right, beautiful people. Let's go ahead and hop on over here to Deuteronomy chapter 19, cities of refuge. When Yahuwah your God destroys the nations whose land he is giving you, you will take over their land and settle in their towns and homes. You must set apart 3 cities of refuge in the land Yahuwah your God is giving you. Survey the territory and divide the land your God is giving you into 3 cities, with one of these cities in each district. Then anyone who has killed someone can flee to one of these cities of refuge for safety. If someone kills another person unintentionally without previous hostility, the slayer may flee to any of these cities to live in safety. For example, suppose someone goes into the forest with a neighbor to cut wood, and suppose one of them swings an axe to chop down a tree, and the axe head flies off the handle, killing the other person. First of all, my G, you were standing way too close. In such cases, the slayer may flee to one of the cities of refuge to live in safety. If the distance to the nearest city of refuge is too far, an enraged avenger might be able to chase down and kill the person who caused the death. Then the slayer would die unfairly, since he had never shown hostility toward the person who died. This is why I am commanding you to set aside 3 cities of refuge. And if Yahuwah your God enlarges your territory, as he swore to your ancestors, and gives you all the land he promised them, you must designate 3 additional cities of refuge. He will give you this land if you are careful to obey all the commands I have given you, if you always love Yahuwah your God and walk in his ways, that way you will prevent the death of innocent people in the land Yahuwah your God is giving you as your special possession. You will not be held responsible for the death of innocent people. But suppose someone is hostile toward a neighbor and deliberately ambushes and murders him, and then flees to one of the cities of refuge. In that case, the elders of the murderer's hometown must send agents to the city of refuge to bring him back and hand him over to the dead person's avenger to be put to death. Do not feel sorry for that murderer. Purge from Israel the guilt of murdering innocent people, then all will go well with you. When you arrive in the land Yahuwah your God is giving you as your special possession, you must never steal anyone's land by moving the boundary markers your ancestors set up to mark their property. You must not convict anyone of a crime on the testimony of only one witness. The facts of these cases must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If a malicious witness comes forth and accuses someone of a crime, then both the accuser and accused must appear before Yahuwah by coming to the priests and judges in office at that time. The judges must investigate the case thoroughly. If the accuser has brought false charges against his fellow Israelite, you must impose on the accuser the sentence he intended for the other person. In this way, you will purge such evil from among you. Then the rest of the people will hear about it and be afraid to do such an evil thing. You must show no pity for the guilty. Your rule should be for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. All right, shalom, shalom. All right, y'all, Deuteronomy chapter 20. When you go out to fight your enemies and you face horses and chariots and an army greater than your own, do not be afraid. Yahuwah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, is with you. When you prepare for battle, the priests must come forward to speak to the troops. He will say to them, "Listen to me, all you men of Israel. Do not be afraid as you go out to fight your enemies today. Do not lose heart or panic or tremble before them. Yahuwah your God is going with you. He will fight for you against your enemies, and he will give you victory." Then the officers of the army must address the troops and say, "Has anyone here just built a new house but not yet dedicated it? If so, you may go home. You might be killed in a battle and someone else would dedicate your house. Has anyone here just planted a vineyard but not yet eaten any of its fruit? If so, you may go home. You might die in battle and someone else eat the first fruit. Has anyone here just become engaged to a woman but not yet married her? Well, you may go home and get married. You might die in battle and someone else would marry her." Seems fair, right? Then the officers will also say, "Is anyone here afraid or worried? If you are, you may go home before you frighten anyone else." Just like Gideon, right? You will say, "Look, we need to separate these men because all these, they're gonna cause a ruckus between all the other ones. We need to cut it down to 300. Then the officers will also say, "Is anyone here afraid or worried? If you are, you may go home before you frighten anyone else." When the officers have finished speaking to their troops, they will appoint the unit commanders. As you approach a town to attack it, you must first offer its people terms for peace. If they accept your terms and open the gates for you, then all the people inside will serve you in forced labor. But if they refuse to make peace and prepare to fight, you must attack the town. When Yahuwah your God hands the town over to you, use your swords to kill every man in the town. But you may keep for yourselves all the women, children, livestock, and other plunder. You may enjoy the plunder from your enemies that Yahuwah your God has given you. But these instructions apply only to distant towns, not to the towns of the nations and the lands you will enter. In those towns that Yahuwah your God has given you as a special possession, destroy every living thing. You must completely destroy the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, just as Yahuwah your God has commanded you. This will prevent the people of the land from teaching you to imitate their detestable customs in the worship of their gods, which will cause you to sin deeply against Yahuwah your God. But when you are attacking a town and the war drags on, you must not cut down the trees with your axes. You may eat the fruit, but do not cut down the trees. Are the trees your enemies that you should attack them? You may only cut down trees that you know are not valuable for food. Use them to make the equipment you need to attack the town until it falls. Aliyah, hey girl, hey. We got two Aliyahs up here. We got two. There's a female and a male up here. So when a female comes, I say, hey girl, hey. So maybe the other Aliyah wasn't paying attention and didn't realize. Okay, y'all just spell it different. All right, I just wanted to make that distinction. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 21, which is the last chapter for the day before we hop over to the legends of the Jews. When you are in the land Yahuwah your God is giving you, someone may be found murdered in a field, and you don't know who committed the murder. In such a case, your elders and judges must measure the distance from the site of the crime to the nearby towns. When the nearest town has been determined, that town's elders must select from the herd a heifer that has never been trained or yoked to a plow. They must lead it down to an alley that has not been plowed or planted and that has a stream running through it. There in the valley they must break the heifer's neck. Then the Levitical priest must step forward, for Yahuwah your God has chosen them to minister before him and to pronounce blessings in Yahuwah's name. They are to decide all legal and criminal cases. The elders of the town must wash their hands over the heifer whose neck was broken. Then they must say, our hands did not shed this person's blood, nor did we see it happen. O Lord, forgive your people Israel, whom you have redeemed. Do not charge your people with the guilt of murdering an innocent person. They will be absolved of the guilt of this person's blood. Then they will be absolved of the guilt of this person's blood. By following these instructions, you will do what is right in Yahuwah's sight and will cleanse the guilt of murder from your community. Suppose you go out to war and against your enemies, and Yahuwah your God hands them over to you, and you take some of them as captives. Suppose you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you are attracted to her and want to marry her. If this happens, you may take her to your home, where she must shave her head, cut her nails, and change the clothes she was wearing when she was captured. She will stay in your home, but let her mourn for her father and her mother for a full month. Then you may marry her, and you will be her husband, and she will be your wife. But if you marry her and she does not please you, you must let her go free. You may not sell her or treat her as a slave, for you have humiliated her. Suppose a man has two wives, but he loves one and not the other, and both of them have given him sons. And suppose the firstborn son is the son of the wife he does not love. When the man divides his inheritance, he may not give the larger inheritance to his younger son, the son of the wife he loves, as if he were the firstborn son. He must recognize the rights of his oldest son, the son of the wife he does not love, by giving him a double portion. He is the firstborn of his father's virility, and the rights of the firstborn belong to him. And where do we see this happening, right? We see this happen between Jacob and Leah and Rachel, right? Okay. Suppose a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not obey his father or mother, even though they discipline him. In such a case, the father and mother must take the son to the elders as they hold court at a town gate. The parents must say to the elders, "This son of ours is stubborn and rebellious and refuses to obey. He is a glutton and a drunkard." Then all the men of the town must stone him to death. In this way they will purge the evil from among you, and all Israel will hear about it and be afraid. If someone has committed a crime worthy of death and is executed and hung on a tree, the body must not remain hanging from the tree overnight. You must bury that body the same day, for anyone who is hung is cursed in the sight of Yahuwah. In this way you will prevent the defilement of the land Yahuwah your God is giving you as a special possession. All right, beautiful people. We're not even going to delve into that today right here. All right, so we're about to hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews. From the South Sinai. Yeah, you in Egypt, right? I was looking at a couple of your videos. Hey, thanks for joining. Allie, y'all. You putting out some good information too, sis. Okay, y'all. So, if we over here in the Legends of the Jews, yeah, Egypt. I ain't never been over there. I want to visit. I really do. And a lot of other places around there in Africa. All right, y'all. So we are in chapter 5 of volume 3. And if you have the same size book I do, it's page 334. If you have the smaller book with the different page numbers, the section is called Israel. Oh, hold on. Wait. Did we read that part yesterday? Yeah, no, we didn't. Israel convinced of Aaron's priesthood. Okay. After the death of the 250 followers of Korah who perished at the offering of incense, Eleazar, the son of Aaron, was ordered to take up the censers out of the burning, in which the souls, not the bodies of the sinners, were burned, that out of these brazen plates he made a covering for the altar. Eleazar, and not his father, the high priest, received this commission, for Yahuwah said, "The censer brought death upon 2 of Aaron's sons. Therefore let the third now fetch forth a censer and effect expiation for the sinners." The covering of the altar, fashioned out of the brass of these censers, was to be a memorial unto the children of Israel, to the end that no stranger, which is not of the seed of Aaron, come near to burn incense before Yahuwah. Such a one was not, however, to be punished like Korah and his company, but in the same way as Moses had once been punished by Yahuwah with leprosy. This punishment was visited upon King Uzziah, who tried to burn incense in the temple, asserting that it was the king's task to perform the service before the king of all. The heavens hastened to the scene to consume him, just as the celestial fire had once consumed the 250 men who had wrongfully assumed the rights of the priesthood. The earth strove to swallow him as it once swallowed Korah and his company. But a celestial voice announced, "Upon none save Korah and his company came punishment like these, and upon no others. This man's punishment shall be leprosy." Hence Uzziah became a leper. Peace was not, however, established with the destruction of Korah and his company, for on that very day followed the terrible catastrophe. There arose a rebellion against Moses, that even more violent than the preceding one. For although the people were now convinced that nothing came to pass without the will of Yahuwah, they still thought that Yahuwah was doing all of this for Moses' sake. Hence they laid at his door Yahuwah's violent anger against them, blaming not the wickedness of those who had been punished, but Moses, who they said had excited Yahuwah's revengefulness against them. They accused Moses of having brought about the death of so many of the noblest among them as a punishment for the people, only that they might not again venture to call him to account, and that he might thereby ensure his brother's possession of the priestly office, since no one would hereafter covet it, seeing that on its account the noblest among them had met so terrible a fate. The kinsmen of those who had perished stirred the flame of resentment and spurred on the people to set a limit to Moses' love of power, insisting that the public welfare and safety of Israel demanded such measures. These unseemly speeches and their unceasing, incorrigible perverseness brought upon them Yahuwah's wrath to such a degree that he wanted to destroy them all, and bade Moses and Aaron go away from the congregation that he might instantly set about their ruin. When Moses saw that there was wrath going out from Yahuwah and the plague was begun, he called Aaron to him, saying, Take thy censer and put fire therein from off the altar, and lay incense thereon, and carry it quickly unto the congregation, and make atonement for them. This remedy against death Moses had learned from the angel of death himself at the time he was staying in the heavens to receive the Torah. At that time he had received a gift from each one of the angels, and that of the angel of death had been the revelation of the secret that incense can hold him at bay. Moses, in applying this remedy, had in mind also the purpose of showing the people the injustice of their superstition concerning the offering of incense. They called it death-bearing because it had brought death upon Nadab and Abihu, as well as upon the 250 followers of Korah. He now wished to convince them that it was this very incense that prevented the plague, and to teach them that it is sin that brings death. Aaron, however, did not know why he employed incense, and therefore he said to Moses, O my Lord Moses, hast thou perchance my death in view? My sons were burnt because they put strange fire into the censers. Shall I now fetch holy fire from the altar and carry it outside? Moses like, I need to be sure. You trying to off me, man? Look, because this is how my sons died, and this happened to 250 followers of Korah. Oh, true. Surely I shall meet my death through this fire. Moses replied, Go quickly and do as I have bidden thee, for while thou dost stand and talk, they die. Aaron hastened to carry out the command given to him, saying, Even if it be my death, I obey gladly, if I can only serve Israel thereby. The angel of death had meanwhile wrought terrible havoc among the people, like a reaper mowing down line after line of them, allowing not one of the line he touched to escape. Whereas, on the other hand, not a single man died before he reached the row in which the man stood. Aaron, censer in hand, now appeared and stood between the ranks of the living and those dead, holding the angel of death at bay. The latter now addressed Aaron, saying, Leave me to my work, for I have been sent to do it by Yahuwah. Whereas thou dost bid me to stop in the name of a creature that is only of flesh and blood. Aaron did not, however, yield, but said, Moses acts only as Yahuwah commands him, and if thou wilt not trust him, behold, God and Moses are both in the tabernacle. Let us both betake ourselves thither. The angel of death refused to obey his call, whereupon Aaron seized him by force, and thrusting the censer under his face, dragged him into the tabernacle, where he locked him in, so that death ceased. Wait a minute. So you mean to tell me Aaron took hold of this angel? Aaron, flesh and blood, took hold of this angel. I'm telling y'all, boy, when you stay close to the Most Holy, some supernatural things be happening. Now, I wouldn't be there. I'm just reading what's happening, and I don't doubt it at all, based on some of the things I have seen. But let me just read this again. Hold on. Listen. The latter now addressed Aaron, saying, Leave me to my work, for I have been sent by Yahuwah to do it. Whereas thou bid me to stop in the name of a creature that is only of flesh and blood. Aaron did not, however, yield, but said, Moses acts only as Yahuwah commands him, and if thou wilt not trust him, behold, Yahuwah and Moses are both in the tabernacle. Let us both betake ourselves thither. The angel of death refused to obey his call, whereupon Aaron seized him by force, and thrusting the censer under his face, dragged him to the tabernacle, where he locked him in, so that death ceased. In this way, Aaron paid off a debt to Moses. After the worship of the golden calf, that came to pass, not without some guilt on Aaron's part, Yahuwah had decreed that all 4 of Aaron's sons were to die. But Moses stood up between the living and the dead, and through his prayer succeeded in saving 2 out of the 4. In the same way, Aaron now stood up between the living and the dead to ward off from Israel the angel of death. Yahuwah in his kindness now desired the people once and for all to be convinced of the truth that Aaron was the elect, and his house the house of priesthood. Hence he bade Moses convince them in the following fashion. Upon Yahuwah's command, he took a beam of wood, divided it into 12 rods, bade every prince of a tribe in his own hand write his name on one of the rods respectively, and laid up the rods overnight before the sanctuary. Then the miracle came to pass that the rod of Aaron, the prince of the tribe of Levi, bore the ineffable name, which caused the rod to bloom blossoms overnight and to yield ripe almonds. When the people, who all night had been pondering which tribe should on the morrow be proven by the rod of its prince to be the chosen one, betook themselves early in the morning to the sanctuary, and saw the blossoms and almonds upon the rod of Aaron, they were at last convinced that Yahuwah had destined the priesthood for his house. The almonds, which ripened more quickly than any other fruit, at the same time informed them that Yahuwah would quickly bring punishment upon those who should venture to usurp the powers of priesthood. Aaron's rod was then laid up before the holy ark by Moses. It was this rod kings used until the time of the destruction of the temple, when in miraculous fashion it disappeared. Elijah in the future will fetch it forth and hand it over to the Messiah. Korah's rebellion took place during Israel's sojourn in Kadesh Barnea, whence a short time before the spies had been sent out. They remained in this place during 19 years, and then for as long as time wandered ceaselessly from place to place through the desert. When at last the time decreed by Yahuwah for their stay in the wilderness was over, and the generation that Yahuwah said must die in the desert had paid its penalty for sin, they returned again to Kadesh Barnea. They took delight in this place, endeared to them by long years of habitation, and settled down in the expectation of a cheerful and agreeable time. But the prophetess Miriam now dies, and the loss of the woman who occupied a place as high as that of her brothers, Moses and Aaron, at once became evident in a way that was perceived by the pious as well as by the godless. She was the only woman who died during the march through the desert, and this occurred for the following reasons. She was a leader of the people together with her brothers, and as these two were not permitted to lead the people into the promised land, she had to share their fate. The well, furthermore, that had provided Israel with water during the march through the desert had been a gift of Yahuwah to the people as a reward for the good deeds of this prophetess. And as this gift had been limited to the time of the march through the desert, she had to die shortly before the entrance into the promised land. Hardly had Miriam died when the well also disappeared, and a dearth of water set in, that all Israel might know that only owing to the merits of the pious prophetess had they been spared the lack of water during the 40 years of the march. Wow. While Moses and Aaron were now plunged in deep grief for their sister's death, a mob of people collected to wrangle them on the account of the dearth of water. Moses, seeing the multitudes of people approaching from the distance, said to his brother Aaron, "What may all these multitudes desire?" The other replied, "Are not the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob kind-hearted people, and the descendants of kind-hearted people? They come to express their sympathy." Moses, however, said, "Thou art not able to distinguish between a well-ordered procession and this motley multitude?" He said, "Aaron, they coming to kill us, bro. What are you talking about?" Were these people assembled in an orderly procession, they would move under the leadership of the rulers of thousands and the rulers of hundreds. But behold, they move in disorderly troops. How then can their intentions be to console with us? The two brothers were not long to remain in doubt concerning the purpose of the multitude, for they stepped up to them and began to pick a quarrel with Moses, saying, "It was a heavy blow for us when 14,700 of our men died of the plague. Harder still to bear was the death of those who were swallowed up by the earth and lost their lives in an unnatural way." The heaviest blow of all, however, was the death of those who were consumed at the offering of incense, whose terrible end is constantly recalled to us by the covering of the altar fashioned out of the brazen plates that came of the censers used by those unfortunate ones. But we all bore these blows, and even wish we had perished simultaneously with them instead of becoming victims of the tortures of death by thirst. At first, they directed their reproaches against Moses alone, since Aaron, on account of his extraordinary love of peace and his kind-heartedness, was the favorite of the people. But once carried away by suffering and rage, they started to hurl their accusations against both of the brothers, saying, "Formerly, your answer to us had always been that sorrows came upon us and that Yahuwah did not stand by us because there were sinful and godless men among us. Now that we are a congregation of Yahuwah, why have ye nevertheless led us to this poor place where there is not water, without which neither man nor beast can live? Why do ye not exhort Yahuwah to have pity upon us, since the well of Miriam had vanished with her death?" A righteous man regarded the life of his beast, and the fact that these people, so near to death, still considered that the sufferings of their beasts shows that they were, notwithstanding their attitude toward Moses and Aaron, really pious men. And in truth, Yahuwah did not take amiss their words against Moses and Aaron, for Yahuwah holds no man accountable for that which he utters in distress. That might be good to know on some days. I'll read that again. Yahuwah did not take amiss their words against Moses and Aaron, for Yahuwah holds no man accountable for that which he utters in distress. For that same reason, neither Moses nor Aaron made a reply to the accusations hurled against them, but hastened to the sanctuary to implore Yahuwah's mercy for his people. They also considered that the holy place would shelter them in case the people meant to lay hands upon them. Yahuwah actually did appear at once and said to them, "Hasten from this place. My children die of thirst, and ye have nothing better to do than to mourn the death of an old woman." Yikes. He then bade Moses, "Speak unto the rock that it may give forth water," but impressed upon them the command to bring forth neither honey nor oil out of the rock, but water only. This was to prove Yahuwah's power, who can pour out of the rock not only such liquids as are contained in it, but water too, that never otherwise issues from a rock. He also ordered Moses to speak to the rock, but not to smite it with his rod. For Yahuwah said, "The merits of them that sleep in the cave of Machpelah suffice to cause their children to receive water out of the rock." Moses fetched out of the tabernacle the holy rod on which was the ineffable name of Yahuwah, and accompanied by Aaron, betook himself to the rock to bring water out of it. On the way to the rock, all of Israel followed him, halting at any rock by the way, fancying that they might fetch water out of it. The grumblers now went about inciting the people against Moses, saying, "Don't you know that the son of Amram had once been Jethro's shepherd, and all shepherds have knowledge of the places in the wilderness that are rich in water? Moses would now try to lead us to a place where there is water, and then he would cheat us and declare that he has caused the water to flow out of a rock. If he actually is able to bring forth water out of rocks, then let him fetch it out of any one of the rocks upon which we fix." Moses could have easily done this, for Yahuwah said to him, "Let them see the water flow out of the rock they have chosen." But when, on the way to the rock, he turned around and perceived that instead of following him, they stood by in groups around different rocks, and each group around some rock favored by it. He commanded them to follow him to the rock upon which he had fixed. They, however, said, We demand that thou bring us water out of the rock we have chosen. For if thou wilt not, we will not care to fetch water out of another rock. Moses' anger causes his doom. Throughout 40 years, Moses had striven to refrain from harshly addressing the people, knowing that if but a single time he lost patience, Yahuwah would cause him to die in a desert. On this occasion, however, he was mastered by his rage and shouted at Israel the words, O ye mad men, ye stiff-necked ones that desire to teach their teacher, ye that shoot up your leaders with your arrows, do you think that out of this rock that ye have chosen, we shall be able to bring forth water? I vow that I shall let water flow out of the rock only that I have chosen. He addressed these harsh words not only to a few among Israel, but to all the people. For Yahuwah had brought a miracle to pass that the small space in front of the rock held all Israel. Carried away by anger, Moses still further forgot himself, and instead of speaking to the rock as Yahuwah had commanded him, he struck the rock chosen by himself. As Moses had not acted according to Yahuwah's command, the rock did not obey at once. The rock did not at once obey. He sent forth sent forth only a few drops of water, so that the mockers cried, Son of Amram, is this for the sucklings and for them that are weaned from milk? Moses now waxed angrier still, and for a second time smote the rock, from which gushed streams so mightily that many of his enemies met their death in the currents, and at the same time water poured out of all the stones and rocks of the desert. Yahuwah hereupon said to Moses, Thou and Aaron believed me not, for I forbade you to smite the rock, but thou didst smite the rock. You sanctified me not in the eyes of the children of Israel, because ye did not fetch water out of any one of their rocks, as the people wished. Ye trespassed against me when you said, Shall we bring forth water out of this rock? And ye acted contrary to my command, because you did not speak to the rock as I had bidden you. I vow, therefore, that ye should not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them, not until the Messianic time shall ye two lead Israel into the Holy Land. We knew Moses was coming back. Aaron coming back too. Check it out, listen. Hold on, let me go back up. Yahuwah hereupon said to Moses, Thou and Aaron believed me not, for I forbade you to smite the rock, but thou didst smite it. Ye sanctified me not in the eyes of the children of Israel, because ye did not fetch water out of any of their rocks, as the people wished. Ye trespassed against me when you said, Shall we bring forth water out of this rock? And ye acted contrary to my command, because you did not speak to the rocks as I had bidden you. I vow, therefore, that ye shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them, and not until the Messianic time shall you two lead Israel to the Holy Land. Yahuwah furthermore said to Moses, Thou shouldst have learned from the life of Ishmael to have greater faith in me. I bade the well to spring up for him, even though he was only a single human being, on the accounts of the merits of his father Abraham. How much more than that had thou a right to expect, that thou couldst refer to the merits of the three patriarchs as well as to the people's own, for they accepted the Torah and obeyed many commandments. Yea, even from thy own experience thou should have drawn greater faith in my will to aid Israel. When in Rephidim thou didst say to me, They be almost ready to stone me, did not I reply to thee, Will dost thou accuse my children? Yahuwah with thy rod before the people, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it. If I wrought for them miracles such as these, when they had not yet accepted the Torah, and did not yet have faith in me, shouldest thou not have known how much more I would do for them now? Yahuwah taketh the wise in their own craftiness. He had long before this decreed that Moses die in the desert, and Moses' offense in Kadesh was only a pretext Yahuwah had employed that he might not seem unjust. Wow. But he gave to Moses himself the true reason why he did not permit him to enter into the promised land, saying, would it perchance rebound to thy glory if thou wert to lead into the land a new generation, after thou hast led out of Egypt the 60 myriads and buried them in the desert? People would declare that the generation of the desert has no share in the future world. Therefore stay with them, that at their head thou mayest after the resurrection enter the promised land. Moses now said to Yahuwah, thou hast decreed that I die in a desert like the generation of the desert that angered thee. I implore thee, write in thy Torah wherefore I have been thus punished, that future generations may not say that I had been like the generations of the desert. Yahuwah granted this wish, and in several passages of Scripture set forth what had really been the offense on account of which Moses had been prohibited from entering the promised land. It was due only to the transgression at the rock in Kadesh, where Moses failed to sanctify Yahuwah in the eyes of the children of Israel, and Yahuwah was sanctified by allowing justice to take its course without respect of persons and punishing Moses. Hence, this place was called Kadesh, sanctity, and En Mishpat, fountain of justice, because on this spot judgment was passed upon Moses, and by this sentence Yahuwah's name was sanctified. Oh boy, I'm telling you. It makes us really have to think before we do something, right? No matter how much somebody piss us off. I myself included. As water had been the occasion for punishment of Moses, Yahuwah did not say that which he had created on the second day of creation was good. For on that day he created water, and that which brought about Moses' death was not good. If the death doomed for Moses upon this occasion was a very severe punishment, entirely out of proportion to his offense, then still more was the death destined for Aaron at the same time. For he had been guilty of no other offense than that of joining Moses at his transgression, and whoso joins a transgressor is as bad as the transgressor himself. On this occasion, as usual, Aaron showed his absolute devotion in his faith in Yahuwah's justice. He might have said, I have not sinned, why am I to be punished? But he conquered himself and put up no defense, wherefore Moses greatly praised him. Okay, we're going to keep on reading, y'all. Edom's unbrotherly attitude towards Israel. From Kadesh, Moses sent ambassadors to the king of Edom, requesting him to permit Israel to travel through his territory, for Moses thought, when our father Jacob, with only a small troop of men, planned to return to his father's house, which was not situated in Esau's possessions, he previously sent a messenger to him to ask his permission. How much more then does it behoove us, a people of great numbers, to refrain from entering Edom's territory before receiving his sanction to do so? Moses' ambassadors had been commissioned to bear the following message to the king of Edom. From the time of our grandfather Abraham, there was a promissory note to be redeemed, for Yahuwah had imposed it upon him that in Egypt his seed should be enslaved and tortured. It had been thy duty, as well as ours, to redeem this note, and thou knowest that we have done our duty, whereas thou wert not willing. Yahuwah had, as thou knowest, promised Abraham that those who had been in bondage in Egypt should receive Canaan for their possession as a reward. That land therefore is ours, who were in Egypt, And thou who did shirk the redemption of the debt, has now claim to our land. Let us then pass through thy land until we reach ours. Know also that the patriarchs in their grave sympathized with our sufferings in Egypt, and whenever we called out to Yahuwah, he heard us, and sent us one of his ministering angels to lead us out of Egypt. Consider then that all thy weapons will avail thee naught if we implore Yahuwah's aid, who will then at once overthrow thee by thy host. For this is our inheritance, and the voice of Jacob never proves ineffectual. That thou mayest not, however, plead that our passage through thy land will bring thee only annoyances and no gain, I promise thee that although we draw drink out of a well that accompanies us on our travels, and are provided with food through manna, we shall nevertheless buy water and food from thy people, that ye may profit by our passage. This was no idle promise, for Moses had actually asked the people to be liberal with their money, that the Edomites might not take them to be poor slaves, but might be convinced that in spite of their stay in Egypt, Israel was a wealthy nation. Moses also pledged himself to provide the cattle with muzzles during their passage through Edom, that they might do no damage to the land of the dwellers there. With these words he ended his message to the king of Edom. To the right and to the left of thy land may we pillage and slaughter, but in accordance with Yahuwah's words we may not touch thy possession. But all these prayers and pleadings of Moses were without avail, for Edom's answer was in the form of a threat. Ye depend upon your inheritance, upon the voice of Jacob, which Yahuwah answers, and I too shall depend upon my inheritance, the hand and sword of Esau. Israel now had to give up their attempt to reach their land through Edom's territory, not, however, through fear, but because Yahuwah had prohibited them from bringing war upon the Edomites, even before they had heard from the embassy that Edom had refused them the right of passage. The neighborhood of the godless brings disaster, as Israel was to experience, for they lost the pious Aaron on the boundary of Edom and buried him on Mount Hor. The cloud that used to precede Israel had indeed been accustomed to all levels of the mountains, that they might move upon level ways. But Yahuwah retained 3 mountains in the desert: Sinai, the place of the revelation; Nebo, as the burial place of Moses; and Hor, consisting of a twin mountain, as a burial place for Aaron. Apart from these 3 mountains, there were none in the desert, but the cloud would leave little elevations on the plain where Israel pitched camp, that the sanctuary might thereupon be set up. Dang, we only have 48 minutes? Okay, I'm going to keep on reading. We're going to go to this next section. The 3 shepherds. Aaron died 4 months after the death of his sister Miriam, whereas Moses died nearly a year after his sister. Her death took place on the 1st of Nisan, and that of Moses on the 7th day of Adar in the same year. Although the death of these 3 did not take place in the same month, Yahuwah spoke of them, saying, "And I cut off the 3 shepherds in 1 month," for he had determined upon their death in 1 month. It is Yahuwah's way to classify people into related groups, and the death of these 3 pious ones was not determined upon together with the hat of the sinful generations of wanderers in the desert, but only after this generation had died was sealed the doom of the 3. Miriam died first, and the same fate was decreed for her brothers as a consequence of her death. Miriam's death plunged all into deep mourning. Moses and Aaron wept in their apartments, and the people wept in the streets. For 6 hours Moses was ignorant of the disappearance of Miriam's well with Miriam's death, until the Israelites went to him, saying, "How long wilt thou sit here and weep?" He answered, "Shall I not weep for my sister who had died?" They replied, "While thou art weeping for one soul, weep at the same time for us all." "Why?" asked he. They said, "We have no water to drink." Then he rose up from the ground and went out and saw the well without a drop of water. He now began to quarrel with them, saying, "Have I not told ye, I am not able to bear you myself alone? Ye have rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens, princes, chiefs, elders, and magnates. Let these attend to your needs." Israel, however, said, "All rest with thee, for it is thou who did lead us out of Egypt and brought us into this evil place. It is no place of seed or figs or of vines or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. If thou wilt give us water, it is well. If not, we shall stone thee." When Moses heard this, he fled from them and betook himself to the tabernacle. There Yahuwah said to him, "What ails thee?" And Moses replied, "O Lord of the world, thy children want to stone me, and had I not escaped, they would have stoned me by now." Yahuwah said, "Moses, how much longer wilt thou continue to calumniate my children? Is it not enough at that Horeb thou didst say, They be ready to stone me? Whereupon I answered thee, Go up before them, and I will see whether they stone me." He said, "Oh yeah, go on out there. Let me see if they're going to stone you or not." Moses probably like, "What?" Listen, Moses like, "You not showing me enough pity here. Y'all, hold on. Listen. Hold on. When Moses heard this, he fled from them and betook himself to the tabernacle. There Yahuwah said to him, "What ails thee?" And Moses replied, "O Lord of the world, thy children want to stone me, and had I not escaped, they would have stoned me by now." Yahuwah said, "Moses, how much longer wilt thou continue to calumniate my children? Is it not enough that at Horeb thou didst say, They be ready to stone me? Whereupon I answered thee, Go up before them, and I will see whether they stone thee or not. Take the rod and assemble the congregation, thou and Aaron thy brother. Speak ye unto the rock before thy eyes, and give it, and that give, I'm sorry, hold on. Reading too fast. Take the rod and assemble the congregation, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, that it give forth its water." Moses now went to seek for the rock, followed by all of Israel, for he did not know which was the rock out of which Yahuwah had said water was to flow. For the rock out of Miriam's well flowed. For the rock out of which Miriam's well flowed vanished among the rest of the rocks in such a way that Moses was not able to distinguish it among the number. On the way they saw a rock that dripped, and they took their places in front of it. When Moses saw that the people stood still, he turned around, and they said to him, "How long wilt thou lead us on, Moses, until I fetch ye forth water out of the rock?" The people, "Give us water at once, that we may drink it." Moses, "How long do ye quarrel? Is there a creature in all the world that so rebels against its maker as you do? When it is certain that Yahuwah will give you water out of a rock, even though I do not know which one that may be." The people, "Thou wert a prophet and our shepherd during our march through the desert, and now thou sayest, I know not out of which rock Yahuwah will give us water." Moses hereupon assembled them about a rock, saying to himself, "If I now speak to the rock, bidding it to bring forth water, and it bring forth none, I shall subject myself to humiliation in the presence of the community. For they will say, Where is thy wisdom?" Hence he said to the people, "Ye know that Yahuwah can perform miracles for ye, but he hath hidden from me out of which rock he will let the water flow forth. For whenever the time comes that Yahuwah wished a man not to know, then his wisdom and understanding are of no avail to him." Moses then lifted his rod and let it quietly slide down upon the rock which he laid it, uttering as if addressing Israel all the words, "Shall we bring forth water out of this rock?" The rock of its own accord now began to give forth water, Whereupon Moses struck it with his rod, but then water no longer flowed forth, but blood. Moses hereupon said to Yahuwah, This rock brings forth no water. And Yahuwah instantly turned to the rock with the question, Why dost thou not bring forth water but blood? The rock answered, O Lord of the world, why did Moses smite me? When Yahuwah asked Moses why he had smitten the rock, he replied that it may bring forth water. Yahuwah, however, said to Moses, Had I bidden thee to smite the rock? I had only said, Speak to it. Moses tried to defend himself by saying, I did speak to it, but it brought forth nothing. Thou, Yahuwah replied, hast given Israel the instruction, In righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. Why then did thou not judge the rock in righteousness, the rock that in Egypt supported thee, when out of it thou didst suck honey? Is this the manner of which thou repayest it? Not only were thou unjust to the rock, but thou did also call my children fools. Wait. First of all, were you just constantly telling me you wanted to kill all of them? Now you calling them your children? But when I came to you and said, your children, you said, no, those your folk, Moses. Now they're your children. Now you mad with me? Is this the same manner in which thou repayest it? Not only were thou unjust to the rock, but thou also did call my children fools. If thou then art such a wise man, it does not become thee as a wise man to have anything further to do with fools, and therefore thou shalt not with them learn to know the land of Israel. Sheesh. At the same time, Yahuwah added, Neither thou, nor thy brother, nor thy sister shall set foot upon the land of Israel. For even in Egypt, Yahuwah had warned Moses and Aaron to refrain from calling the Israelites fools. And as Moses, without evoking a protest from Aaron, at the water of Kadesh, called them fools, the punishment of death was decreed for him and his brother. When Yahuwah had informed Moses of the impending punishment due to him and his brother, he turned to the rock, saying, Turn thy blood into water. And so it came to pass. Okay, we're going to read this last section about Aaron. Preparing Aaron for impending death. And then we'll actually read about his death tomorrow. Okay. We done read a whole lot. We covered a whole lot of ground today. Okay. As a sign of his special favor, Yahuwah communicated to the pious the day of their death, that they may transmit their crowns to their sons. And that's something I noticed. Like everybody, before they passed, they knew the day of their death. Like sometimes we just go and it take people by surprise. I'm like, it shouldn't be this way. This was never how it was. But when you put out that celestial light in everybody, all these things, nobody knew anymore, right? Okay. So, as a sign of his special favor, Yahuwah communicates to the pious the day of their death, that they may transmit their crowns to their sons. But Yahuwah considered it particularly fitting to prepare Moses and Aaron for impending death, saying, These two pious men throughout their lifetime did nothing without consulting me, and shall I not therefore take them out of this world without previously informing them? We're going to see how Moses act like all the way up when we start getting to that point. It's like I said, it's funny, but it's not funny. All the way up to the day of his death, he trying to talk y'all into it. And y'all kept, Moses, you got 2 days left. And I was hollering, rolling, listening to this part. He's like, you got 6 hours left, Moses. But Father, look, you down to 3 hours. It's like I said, it's funny, but it's not funny. But it strikes you right to the core of your shanana. Like, don't play with Yah. He ain't playing with you, and he'll love you all the way to the day he take you to bring you with him. But I'm telling you, if he tell us to do something, hey there, Jonathan, how you doing? But if he tell us to do something, boy, we better try with our heart and soul to keep that thing that he has told us to keep. If we find it too hard for us to keep, we might need to add some fasting and prayer to our lifestyle so that we don't sidestep the command that Yahuwah has given us. Like every time I read through this, I'm just like, oh, Father, help me. Help me. Okay. When therefore Aaron's time approached, Yahuwah said to Moses, my servant Moses, who has been faithful in all my house, I have an important matter to communicate to thee, but it weighs heavily upon me. Moses, what is it? Yahuwah, Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, for he shall not enter into the land that I have given unto the children of Israel, because ye have rebelled against my word at the waters at Meribah. Moses replied, Lord of the world, it is manifest and known before the throne of thy glory that thou art Lord of all the world, and of thy creatures that in this world thou hast created, so that we are in thy hand, and in thy hand it lies to do with us as thou wilt. I am not, however, fit to go to my brother and to repeat to him thy commission, for he is older than I. And how then can I presume to go up to my older brother and say, go up to Mount Hor and die there? Yahuwah answered Moses, not with the lips shalt thou touch this matter, but take Aaron and Eleazar his son, and bring them up to Mount Hor. Ascend thou also with them, and there speak with thy brother sweet and gentle words, the burden of which will, however, prepare him for what awaits him. Later, when ye shall all three be there upon the mountain, strip Aaron of his garments, and put them upon Eleazar his son, and Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, and shall die there. As a favor to me, prepare Aaron for his death, for I am ashamed to tell him of it myself. When Moses heard this, there was a tumult in his heart, and he knew not what to do. He wept so passionately that his grief for the impending loss of his brother brought him to the brink of death himself. As a faithful servant of Yahuwah, however, nothing remained for him to do but to execute his master's command. Hence he betook himself to Aaron, to the tabernacle, to inform him of his death. Oh my gosh, I'm like getting choked up reading about this, right? Whew. Oh my gosh. Now it had been customary during the 40 years march through the desert for the people daily to gather, first before the 70 elders, and then under their guidance before the princes of the tribes, then for all of them to appear before Eleazar and Aaron, and with these to go to Moses to present to him their morning greeting. On this day, however, Moses made a change in this custom, and after having wept through the night, at the cock's crow, summoned Eleazar before him and said to him, Go and call to me all the elders and princes, for I have to convey to them a commission from Yahuwah. Accompanied by these men, Moses not betook himself to Aaron, who, seeing Moses when he arose, asked, Why hast thou made a change in the usual custom? Moses, Yahuwah hath bidden me to make a communication to thee. Aaron, tell it to me. Moses, wait until we are out the doors. Aaron thereupon donned his 8 priestly garments, and both went out. Now it had always been the custom for Moses, whenever he went from his house to the tabernacle, to walk in the center, with Aaron at his right and Eleazar to his left, then the elders at both sides, and the people following in the rear. Upon arriving within the tabernacle, Aaron would seat himself as the very nearest at Moses' right hand, Eleazar at his left, and the elders and princes in front. On this day, however, Moses changed this order. Aaron walked in the center, Moses at his right hand, Eleazar at his left, the elders and the princes at both sides, and the rest of the people following. When the Israelites saw this, they rejoiced greatly, saying, Aaron now has a higher degree of the Holy Spirit than Moses, and therefore does Moses yield to him the place of honor in the center. Oh my gosh. Only if they knew. Aaron is taking his last walk. Oh my gosh. Oh. The people love Aaron better than Moses, for ever since Aaron had become aware that through the construction of the golden calf he had brought about the transgression of Israel, It was his endeavor through the following course of life to atone for his sin. He would go from house to house, and whenever he found one who did not know how to recite his Shema, he taught him the Shema. If one did not know how to pray, he taught him how to pray. If he found one who was not capable of penetrating into the study of the Torah, he initiated him into it. He did not, however, consider his task restricted to establishing peace between Yahuwah and man, but strove to establish peace between the learned and the ignorant Israelites, among the scholars themselves, among the ignorant, and between man and wife. Hence the people loved him very dearly and rejoiced when they believed he had now attained a higher rank than Moses. Having arrived at the tabernacle, Aaron now wanted to enter, but Moses held him back, saying, "We shall now go beyond the camp." When they were outside the camp, Aaron said to Moses, "Tell me the commission Yahuwah hath given thee." Moses answered, "Wait until we reach the mountain." At the foot of the mountain, Moses said to the people, "Stay here until we return to you. I, Aaron, and Eleazar will go to the top of the mount, and we shall return when we shall have heard the divine revelation." All three now ascended. Oh, boy. I'm gonna have to pull myself together to read the rest of this tomorrow. Oh my God. So we're at an hour and 6 minutes, so we're gonna wait. Because if I read this today, I ain't gonna be able to keep myself together. So I'm gonna be crying. I ain't gonna be crying tomorrow. I gotta give myself time to recuperate here. But anyway, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed the reading today. We started Legends of the Jews on page 334, and we went all the way to page 340. Yeah, that was a lot. A lot today. I guess because the passages were so short. All right, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed the reading. We'll pick this back up tomorrow. So we read Deuteronomy 19, 20, and 21. Of course, Legends of the Jews, pages 334 to 340. It is Tuesday, y'all. Happy Tuesday. February the 23rd, 2021. Day 85 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 3-year consecutive day count. This is day 754. And remember, these are only the days that we read. These are not the Sabbath days nor the feast days, Sabbath days added into the count. If it were, we'd be well right now into the 900-day count. Because 1 year of Sabbaths is 52 days. So just add year 1 and year 2. That's already 104 days we can add to the count, not including the Sabbath we've already had this year and the feast day Sabbath days for the last 3 years. So blessed be the most holy. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and jump on over here to the blessing, which is found in Numbers. Y'all know it. Chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazirite vow. Remember, a man or a woman can take the Nazirite vow. And like I said, like I always say, everybody who loves the Most Holy should consider at least one time in their life or another to set them aside and take that vow for the set period of time that you choose. You get to choose how long and when. If you do, it's not a requirement, but it's something there that Yahuwah sets out for his people to take. And we realize that Yahuwah does special things with Nazirites. All right, even if he never does anything special or amazingly noteworthy that the world can see, it's still a blessing to be set apart for him for any specific period of time. Because just the growth that you get in the relationship and what grows in your relationship just between you and him, that's worth it all. It really is. So I really would encourage you, consider it. It's not something that should be taken lightly. Don't just look at it, oh yeah, I'm going to take it. No, because you have to realize all that comes along with it. And are you able to keep your vow? Don't take it lightly if you choose to. All right, the blessing. Numbers chapter 6, starting at verse 22. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, upon the children of Yisrael, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. Let me check the comments, see if y'all got any questions today. All right. Everybody that joined in on Facebook. All right, nothing over here on Facebook. All right, beautiful people. No questions here on YouTube either. All right, y'all. With that being said, we out of here. No questions. I really don't really have anything to share today. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like I said, forgive me for my tardiness today. Like I said, I could not go to sleep last night, y'all. Let's see. The sleep mark still kind of semi in my face. When I cracked my eyes, I didn't go to sleep till after like 3:30. And when I cracked my eyes, it was 7:07. I was like, oh my gosh, Father forgive me. I just couldn't go to sleep. I could not. All right, so I'll see y'all in the morning, y'all. Bruce.